Hi there, it's Stephanie from Fork and Knife Teacher, and I am here today to save you time. I know what your day is like. I know it's one class on top of another with maybe a prep if you're lucky, if you don't have to cover for another teacher, and 5 minutes changing over from one class to the next. So this today is our History of Culinary note, and I'm going to briefly go through it with you, kind of tell you what it goes over. Now, it is an editable note, so if there's something you don't want to focus on, you can just, take that out, or if you want to add more details, you can throw in another page, no problem. But this is the history of culinary that I have for you, and it is a European French history of culinary. I mean, we know that cultures all over the world have their own culinary history, but this is focusing on kind of the French European culinary history. Okay, so it starts out with definition of what where the word restaurant comes from, that what the guilds are, because the guilds were essential part of like pre-restaurant life, and so kind of understanding what the guilds were, and so why people got really upset when Monsieur Boulanger, kind of started making his own food in his tavern instead of ordering from the guilds. So that's kind of like a rundown of the beginning of restaurants back in 1765. And then we jump to 20 years later when there is kind of a more modern restaurant that we see appearing in Paris with trained wait staff and menus and all that kind of stuff. And then we jump to the 1800s. So from the late 17 to the 1800s, we've got Grand Cuisine or Haute Cuisine. And that is kind of during the French Revolution. It's about 20 years after the modern restaurant kind of came about. And there's some descriptions about what it is, kind of the key points of it, what made it haute cuisine. And then one of the famous chefs that was known for doing this, which is Anton Carmine, I think that's how you say that, and what he was known for. And then we jump from kind of that grand haute cuisine into classic cuisine, which, is almost like 70 years later. And that is Escoffer's time. And he is, the Savoy in London or Delmonico's in New York City, where, was it Charles Ranhofer is kind of the chef in charge. And kind of some key points of what this cuisine kind of looked like, this evolution of cuisine. And then from there, we go into kind of our more modern, and I mean in the last 120 years. So we start with modern French cuisine in the 1950s. And so how that was, they kind of took that French cuisine and modernized it more for what they were using previously. And so there's a famous chef, Fernand Point, and he trained a lot of people that kind of brought on the next wave of cuisine, which is the 1970s Nouvelle Cuisine, and of course points on what that is. And then there's a listing of the famous chefs for what the chefs that were known for doing that. And then we get into kind of the last 50 years. So regional cuisines, slow food, fusion cuisine, chefs that are known for doing that kind of cuisine and what the key indicators and points of that cuisine is. And that brings us through to kind of an overview on specific chefs. So Carmine, Escoffer, Point, Adria, and these are kind of chef highlights for your students to kind of learn about and read about. All right, so this is Stephanie from Fork and Knife Teacher. You can find me on Teachers Pay Teachers at FCS Fork and Knife or forkandknifeteacher.com. Or I also have a YouTube channel, Fork and Knife Teacher. You can find my videos there. Thanks so much. Bye.